So how goes it, folks? Jolly Yellow talking to you. This past week or so, we have seen a lot of game news from a lot of different companies. The main three console makers had presentations of their own, and then several publishers, studios, developers, and everybody else is just chiming in with what they've got coming up in the near future. So I'm just going to have one big reaction video to cover some of the main points, and I might give a few things individual videos as we go further along. So give me a moment as I go over my thoughts on the recent State of Summer Game Fest Showcase Play Direct. That's what we're going to call it. First title that caught my attention was Kamuri, and judging from the music, the animation, the art style, I very much got K-pop Demon Hunters vibe out of it, and it makes perfect sense. K-pop Demon Hunters was like one of the top animated or maybe even top movies of 2025. They're getting, I believe there's already a sequel movie in the works for them. So many, much merchandising and toys and clothes and everything like that. It stands to reason that someone was going to try to apply this to the realm of video games. Makes perfect sense. It doesn't have my attention really, but I know K-pop Demon Hunters is extremely popular, so I'm sure this will probably do well. One announcement that caught me from nowhere was Tomb Raider: The Legacy of Atlantis. First, on its own, it already had my attention and looked interesting. I was like, oh, if you wanted to play this, and I might go and pick that up when it comes out later on. But then I found out a few days later that apparently it is a remake of the original Tomb Raider way back in the PlayStation 1 days, which I didn't even recognize that while watching that footage. But yeah, I haven't played Tomb Raider in a long time, so this might be a way to get me back into it. Namco Bandai seems to just have a lock on the crowd when it comes to actual modern real-world technology fighter jet dogfights, not space fighting or space ships or anything like that, but just normal fighter craft that may exist today. Ace Combat 8 is coming out. I haven't played these since they were called Air Combat back on like the PlayStation 2, I think that was. But the 8th entry, Wings of Thieves, is going to be coming along in the future, and who knows, this might get me back into the series. So admittedly, I have never played the original Stuntman that came out way back in the day, but this trailer did look very interesting. Also looks like they're putting quite a bit of budget into licensing official cars from official properties. I mean, the trailer alone had Fast and Furious, Miami Vice, Knight Rider, and the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and I'm sure there's going to be more in there as well. Just the fact that they're licensing so many official vehicles from so many different properties, I'm sure it's going to get a lot of love. And I know everybody's all a buzz about God of War Lao Fei, and truth be told, I haven't really been much for the modern God of War games, but hey, they have an audience, they're out there, and shame on anybody who's trying to tear this game down just because it's a woman lead. Y'all just give the damn game a chance. Who knows, you might actually enjoy it. And personally, I think they're probably just putting this out here as a way to tide people over while they decide on what to do next with Kratos or Atreus, aka Loki, or how the next direction is going to be. So I say just give this game a chance, let it run its course, and who knows, you might actually like it. So it looks like the next entry in the Fable series is coming up, and I'll tell you what, when I was watching that, I was interested, I was impressed. And then the one character there, she gives that monologue about what the world needs and how she considers herself to be the hero the world needs and things like that. So again, I'm not very deep into Fable, but this, I don't know, I might pick it up and play it. And it looks like the Fable games really don't have, I don't know if they do have a continuing story. I don't know if I need to play the previous Fables, and someone can chime in on the comments and let me know about it. Do I need to play the previous Fable games to know what's going on with this new one that's coming up? Just let me know there. The Plague's Tale games. Looks like there is I think this is going to be the third or perhaps the fourth. It could be called Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy. I've played the original one a little bit, and that one's fun. Some interesting mechanics going on there. I enjoyed it very much. I never did go back and play the second one, and possibly if there was a third one. I don't know if there was. This new one that's coming up, Resonance, is either the third or the fourth entry. I played the first one. I had fun with it, so it's good to see it coming back. Magician: The Devil's Deal, in which you play a magician where, make sure I understand this correctly, is you basically, your soul has been taken, and the devil offers you a deal in order to get it back, and you have to defeat the 5 that were responsible for having, getting your soul taken. So that's going to be fun. I'm sure it will be. From the trailer that was out there, it was put up in the presentation, it looks like you're going to use actual magic. I mean, yes, it's kind of like the magic wand, hocus pocus, saw the assistant in half type magic, but there's going to be some real power behind it. I'm not even sure what to think about that. I have to do a wait and see for that. Wild Blue Skies looks like it's going to be an indie shooter. We're talking spaceships and everything, very much in the vein of Star Fox. And I kind of wonder, like, I know it was announced earlier this year that Star Fox is going to get a remake, and that's going to come out, I think that's in late June, early July. And indie development, it's not just done out of nowhere. So I highly doubt one could say that the creators of Wild Blue Skies suddenly decided earlier this year, hey, let's hurry up and throw a game together inspired by Star Fox to steal its thunder. So I think it's safe to assume this game has been years in the making, and probably on the premise that, hey, we haven't had any new Star Fox in a long time. Let us fill that space with our game. And then I guess you could probably say that the announcement of the remake has probably stolen a little bit of thunder from that. But I think Wild Blue Skies still deserves something of a chance, because, again, they might go do some things that the fans are wanting Star Fox to do or have wanted Star Fox to do, and they never got around to. In Blades of Mirage, you will star as Mira, who has the ability to shape water into weapons to fight with them in combat. Blades of Mirage is an action RPG based in a Southeast Asian inspired world. So it looks like we're probably going to have something of an action adventure probably set up. So I'm willing to bet that along with weapons that she can shape water into, she'll probably also be able to do traversal stuff like, geysers to go up to a surface, or maybe manipulate water to put out flames to get past something or anything like that. So that one might be interesting to keep an eye on. Infamous Keepers looks like it's going to be a reverse on the dungeon crawl. You take something like a Diablo where you are the hero who is going through the dungeon, taking out the monsters and looting the treasure and going back out to your life or whatever like that. But in Infamous Keepers, it seems that you have been hired to defend and protect the dungeon from heroes. So you don't protect the loot, protect the treasure. You're supposed to kill anybody that comes in trying to take it over. There's going to be some resource management, and also apparently you're not only protecting the dungeon, but you are protecting the dungeon in order to maintain your job. So not sure what's going on there, but this one could be fun, especially the reverse aspect. Instead of you raiding the dungeon, you're now protecting the dungeon. So I wouldn't exactly say that Wild West themed RPGs are rare, but I don't think they happen too often. So the Dark West is coming along, and that may be the one that could scratch that itch. I know when I was watching the trailer for this, the first thing that came to my mind was Wild Arms, which is kind of the most upper tier or the most prominent Western themed RPG that I can think of or comes to mind, and something similar to that. The Dark West is an action RPG in which it's a Western themed world. The world is dying from some sort of corruption, and your objective, of course, is to find out what that corruption is and deal with it. I don't know if you remember the game Raji, the Ancient Epic, that came out about 4 or 5 years ago. Well, it is getting a sequel called Raji Kali Yuga. And in this go around, you'll actually be playing as both Raji and another person who's going to be called a Dreamwalker. So it looks like there's probably going to be elements of combat, traversal, and situations that will require you to switch between one and the other. Maybe even some things where you have to do something as one to set up the environment, then change into the other and perform another task or something to that effect. Not a lot of info there. I saw that one trailer during the indie showcase, and it looks like it might be interesting. I may have to go back and play the first game just so I know what's happening in this next one. If you're looking something along the lines of naval combat and maybe Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced isn't going to be enough for you, you might want to check out the indie game Black Sailors, in which you are down in South America off the coast of Brazil, I believe it is, in the Bay of All Saints it was called. And what you'll be doing there is you'll be commanding a fleet of all black sailors freed slaves, and then you can, of course, take your actions against colonial forces and kind of rewrite history of that world. So that's gonna be called Black Sailors. It's gonna be tactical naval battles where you're giving commands to your different ships to engage in combat with probably competing pirates, national governments and their respective navies. So keep an eye out for that. If you're looking for some lighthearted driving action, you might want to give a look at Truck Coon is Supporting Me from a Different World. And yes, this is a reference to the infamous Truck Coon from anime. But in Truck Coon Supporting Me from a Different World, you actually play a truck driver and you are having to complete tasks, be it deliveries, dropping people off, maybe taking people out with Truck Coon, because you are actually linked to an elf warrior who is fighting her way through a different world, trying to take out an evil menace of some sort. So basically what's going on is, as you drive around in the real world in the truck, your tasks and your completions and achievements actually power her up in order to fight the evil forces in her world. So, lighthearted fun. I don't think it's going to be taking itself too seriously, so it might be worth checking out. If you're in the mood for some tactical action that's not quite the usual, you might want to check out Crossfire. The game Crossfire is going to be starring two different operators or special forces operators, Layla and Cross. They're on opposing sides, bringing different ideologies, different countries, different purposes. But then a common enemy kind of forces them to put their own differences aside to deal with this greater threat. So this seems like it's going to have that approach of, two enemies that have to temporarily be allies to each other in order to take out something greater. And from what we've seen in the trailer so far, there's going to be kind of the usual dialogue where they're trying to get to know each other. There's the smart remarks going back and forth, but they're also working together, saving each other's lives to deal with that bigger threat. So when it comes to the cozy cooking genre, I never have cared for it. None of those games interest me or have my attention. However, someone has decided to put a One Piece spin on it. And now we have One Piece Grand Gourmet, in which you are mainly playing as Sanji, who opens up a restaurant, and he's going to be serving up, cooking up dishes, taking money from the customers who are various characters from the One Piece world. And it even looks like the rest of the Straw Hat crew are going to be his serving staff, wait staff. So you'll be able to earn money from your customers, expand the restaurant, make it bigger to draw in more customers. And then on top of that, it seems like some of the characters, you might be able to hire them to use their devil fruit powers in the restaurant. Like the first obvious being, Ace with his fire powers, he'll be able to cook some dishes up for you. Or in Neil, we'll be able to use his electricity to cook up some dishes and come up with different combinations of things. So I don't know, I might need to take a try at this whole cozy food cooking genre. And finally, we have Final Fantasy Resonance. I saw this trailer and it does look nice, and it kind of looks like, okay, well, we were successful with Octopath Traveler, we were successful with the Dragon Quest remakes, we're recently about to come out with the Adventures of Elliot in this HD 2D style, so why don't we go ahead and put an actual Final Fantasy game down in this HD 2D style. And I'm wondering if this is Square Enix taking a toe dip and trying to experiment and see what works, what people like, what people don't like, and then take the feedback from this Final Fantasy Resonance and eventually incorporate it into what will be Final Fantasy 17 one day. So I get the feeling this is going to be like a middle step of the way towards Final Fantasy 17. And I mean, looking at the details, you can even see where you got summons, you've got aspers, there's going to be the old school dungeon crawling and battles and turn-based. And even if you look at some of the main characters that have been revealed so far, they look and kind of have stories similar to older characters from older Final Fantasy games, and I'll get to that in a separate video later. But I'm gonna keep an eye on this, and thankfully it's available for Switch 1, so I see myself buying this, even though I told myself I was gonna cut back on JRPGs. Yeah, I tried and I failed. I'm totally going to be buying this. So that wraps up the things that caught my eye during all of these showcases, presentations, and shows over the last week or so. There's going to be some individual videos I drop out later on some other titles. You'll probably notice that I did not talk about the Resident Evil Code Veronica remake, and there's a reason I skipped that one. I'm definitely going to save that one for a video in the future, and I also want to talk about Final Fantasy Resonance a little bit more in its own separate video. But even without those things, this is probably the longest video on my entire channel so far, so thank you for sticking with me. I know you're used to coming in for about 5 to 10 minutes and then you're immediately out of there. This one here is probably going to be closing in on 15 to 20 minutes. So again, thank you for sticking with me through this. If you watched the entire thing, you folks have a good one. Jolly Hello out.